We're in Chicago, and we have a lot of members from the Chicago police and policemen all over this area going to do a hands-on seminar for pressure points. I want to tell you something about my background, because a lot of you might not know enough about me, or anything about me at all. If you haven't read my book on pressure points, you don't know about my background, but some of that's not in the first book. I spent 12 years in the military. Most of the time I was in the military police, and I was a commissioned officer. I went to officer school, became an officer. I was in the military police, and in 1966 I was one of the officers actually in charge of the patrol or the forces around the Pentagon. When the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. was being attacked, I was in the front row in charge of those officers. So I want you to know I have that type of police experience. Also, I was one of the commanders on the streets. I was attached to the 82nd Airborne, and I was one of the major commanders during the riots, the racial riots that took place in 1967 and 1968. I was standing there, not guarding, but we were there to protect Martin Luther King the day he made his big famous speech. In fact, I was maybe 15 or 20 feet from him when he made that speech on military duty, naturally. I was one of the honor guard for Bobby Kennedy's funeral, on my police duty out in the streets during those riots. I didn't really get shot at as such, but I had loaded guns aimed at me, I had knives pulled on me, and I had many things thrown at me. I'm sure you've all experienced that, or you will sometime during maybe your police career. But I wanted to let you know that I did have a lot of military police experience. I moved to Reading, Pennsylvania in 1968, and I was in charge of teaching the police in that area how to handle riots with crowds of 100 or more, since I was trained by the military in that area. I then later got into pressure points. It was 1972. I got introduced to pressure points by a little man from Okinawa that started showing me this is what the martial arts are all about. My pressure point study has taken me into medical universities. I've studied with doctors side by side. We've dissected human bodies, we've traced nerves, and my pressure point study is very deep. And I have doctors from all over the United States, in fact all over the world, that back up my study. And there's many quotes in my second book from medical people. We're going to get into pressure points today. We work with policemen. We try to keep the pressure points simple. We try to keep them clean and pressure points that do work. I was talking to the one lady policeman over here a little bit earlier, and she said she was showing a pressure point technique at training school. And I said, well, that one won't work on a muscular individual. And she said, yeah. She said, we've since found that out. Well, that's not the way to find out about pressure points. You should know which ones work best, quick, fast, and yet keep everything non-violent. That's the good part about the pressure points. You can handcuff, you can restrain somebody, you can put them under a hold by just simply touching or grasping pressure points. Anytime you work with pressure points, the key secret, we have two secrets we like to work with. One is a lot of torque. You do not just grab someone, but you grab them and you torque, as if you're trying to twist a pliers. And when you grab them, you grab and you've got to torque, because that is what will activate the nerve. Just grabbing at a pressure point or touching the pressure point is not necessarily going to activate it, especially if you have somebody that's on drugs or on alcohol, which a lot of the times you will be dealing with. So we do a lot of torque. The next secret, and this is the big secret when it comes to pressure points, and this does require some concentration or maybe even study. In fact, that's why I did a book on it. Pressure points require the proper angle and direction. To work a pressure point, and I'll tell you what is a pressure point. A pressure point is a place where a nerve does the letter Y. That's a pressure point. A pressure point is a place where two nerves cross, like an X. And a pressure point is a place where the nerve ends in the skin or the muscle. Proper angle and direction is important, because I can show you several pressure points. So when we talk about pressure points in my deeper study, people say, well, what is the correct angle and direction? A lot of people are out there teaching pressure points, even to policemen, and they're not telling them the angle and direction or what that nerve affects, so they basically have no idea. Angle and direction, because if the nerve ends like that, and you hit it up that way, you hit it over this way, you hit it this way, you get not the effect that you should. The nerve in the human body is made to carry pain only 1/3 the length of the nerve. The nerve will slowly diffuse the pain if the angle and direction is not correct. So if you have a nerve and it's a pressure point ending like that, and you strike it up, you strike it over, you strike it this way, that's not the correct angle and direction. But if you hit it like that, straight into it, and it goes in and down, then you're using the correct angle and direction, and you drive the pain all the way down the nerve. Now there's a difference between pain and injury. I can get some of you, we'll do that today. I'll just grab a pressure point or put you in a lock, and I'll have so much pain in your body that you will swear it'll be worse than anything you've ever experienced in your life. You will feel this pain shoot through the body, but that is not injury. The minute I release that pressure point, I can then just rub you or tap you, and the pain goes away. There is no injury. That's what makes it ideal for police. I taught a course at a rehabilitation hospital for mental patients, for people that were injured in automobile accidents, and they had people 6'4" and 6'5" that their mind was injured in an automobile accident, injuring doctors. Before I taught that course, they were running between $800,000 and $1 million a year in costs to repair nurses and doctors. When they decided they needed my course and they brought me in for training, they're still teaching my course today at that hospital, and no one gets injured. They almost have zero amount of injuries because I showed them just pressure points to push or to stop biting, to stop grabbing, to stop the holding or the injury that was happening to nurses and doctors. That's what we're going to work on. Everybody hold out your right arm, because we're going to give you 6 good pressure points that you must know. As a policeman, the first thing coming at you is a hand or an arm. Take your right arm and hold it like so. Take your left hand, go like this, and go right here to the wrist, and repeat after me. Everybody say 2.
2.
Everybody go to the middle of your arm and say 4.
4.
Go up near your elbow and say 6.
6.
We're going to go back, and I'm going to make sure you know where they're at. I just want you to understand that you only have to remember 6. 2, 4, 6. Now, the 2 are right inside, like railroad tracks. The 2 are inside. When we get up to these 2, you'll have one inside, and you'll have one in between the groove or the cavity of the muscle. It'll be in that cavity. So you have 6 to remember. I try to give you at least 4 on the legs to remember, each leg, 6 on each hand, and a few of various parts of the body, so you don't have a lot to remember. In a self-defense situation, and I know as a policeman, if you've got a handcuffing or you have somebody you're trying to put down and you can't stop them, you can't remember maybe the 361 pressure points that my books cover. That's good for you for deeper study. And also one of the policemen before got out of training school, I don't want to mention names, but said that you hit the one part of the body and they said the wrong angle and direction. However, they corrected it and said, well, they weren't taught the right angle and direction because they were taught down, not up. And I said, yeah, but you told me the opposite way first. In a real situation, what are you going to do? You got to be able to do the right angle and direction right then and there. The angle and direction for the pressure points on the small bone side of the arm. The angle and direction is this way. Everybody just take a finger and point from small bone to large bone. The angle and direction is from small bone to large bone. Small bone to large bone. The angle and direction for the pressure points on the large bone are that way. Just go to your large bone and point towards your thumb. That'll help you remember. They're that way. So on the small bone side of the arm, they're this way. On the large bone side of the arm, they are down towards the thumb. Everyone can take their knuckles of their opposite hand, make a fist, and take your knuckles and just rub inside your bone towards your thumb. And you will see that it puts your arm to sleep. You must be right inside the bone. Feel it? right inside the bone. Everybody see where I'm at? Not on the bone. You must be inside the bone. You must be on the inside of the bone. Do not worry about doing anything on the bone. You're not on the bone. You're on the inside. So some of you are rubbing in the center. That's improper. You want to rub just off the bone on the inside, just off the small bone, the ulnar bone, on the inside, just off the radial bone, on the inside of the ulnar. And if you see, that's the angle and direction. Are you getting a tingling in your hand? Okay, now take your finger and point to your wrist. There's a pressure point right here. This controls your opponent's wrist action. Wrist action. We're going to get into that a little bit later, because you need this pressure point and this pressure point. Everybody point to this one, middle of the arm. That controls your opponent's wrist action. Do you understand that? These 2 points are going to be important in disarming someone. You want to take a knife or a gun away? This is going to be the most important point you've ever seen in your life. Because it's going to be the difference between you getting stabbed or shot. This will aim the gun away from you. So you're going to have to know this point. Up on the top, this controls your opponent keeping a fist shut. Excellent to know if somebody has a hold of your throat, your arm, your clothes, or you're on a situation or a scene where somebody has a victim by a throat, and you have to release that hold. That's when these points come into play. You might have somebody strangling a smaller person or another person their size, no matter, but you have to release that hold. This point's important. This point's important. This will release the wrist. The points on the inside, let me use you a minute. The points on the inside of the arm, this one only requires touching. And we're going to do it, we're going to pair off, and you're going to work on it. As you get into pressure points require 3 things done to them. Touching, rubbing, hitting. Hitting a point that needs touch does not help it. Pressure points, besides being nerve endings and crossings and Ys, are receptors in your body. You have receptors that monitor the hot and the cold of this room. If the room's too hot, you'll sweat to cool you down. If the room's too cold, your motor will turn on. You have receptors that control the stretch and action of every joint in your body. We are going to fool these receptors. And the receptors, you need a key to get into them. Touching is a key. Rubbing is a key. Hitting is a key. Generally, every pressure point that's in the center of a bone needs an impact or a hit. There is a nerve fiber there. In fact, there's a little cluster of nerves. Looks like alfalfa sprouts under a microscope, called fusiform fiber nerve. And that monitors the radial nerve at that point. But it only monitors an impact, hitting. It doesn't monitor the rubbing or the touching. Where would the bone break the easiest? In the middle. If you were going to break a block, if you were a karate person, you'd break it in the middle, not off to the side. So because the bone breaks the easiest in the middle, that's why these are hit impactors. And this will go to every bone all over the body. The minute I look at you and see the bone, whether it's the leg bone, the thigh bone, the arm bone, anything, I know that it's going to be a hit impact point in the center of the bone, because that's where the bone would snap the easiest. Even in the jaw, center will give you a hit impact. Other places will be a touch or a rub. At the ends of the bones. Right here, this only needs touched. It's not at the wrist joint itself. It's 1/2 inch up under the bone. Make a fist. Don't let me bend your wrist. Strong. Good and strong. No way you're going to bend the wrist. So how would you get him off somebody's throat? Or off clothes? Or off you? Especially if you had a hold of something. You take a fist. You're going to take this bone and touch that small bone 1/2 inch away from the wrist joint. Hold it tight. Don't let me bend it. I just touch, and I get a release. Same pressure point, retouched, and you can put the person under control for handcuffing. It's a very simple thing to do. He has a fist, tight, I just touch. I have to know that it's up, and I have to use torque. I squeeze into it. I don't just go to the point, I go a slide in, a little before it. You must have a tight fist with this hand. You cannot have a weak hand. If I'm going to straighten out a horseshoe, I put a metal anvil down, I take a hammer, I put the horseshoe, and I put metal to metal to metal. I have the ulnar nerve with a little branch springing off right here. That's what I'm trapping, that little Y in the nerve. So when I touch it, it weakens his wrist. Remember, the pressure points out there are this way. There is an energy in this man's body that runs down the small bone side, crosses over the fist, and goes back the large bone side. Just picture water running. Because I stop that water. Hold it tight. I can't bend it. Because I stop that water, I can bend the wrist. That's the energy that gives the power and the supply to that wrist. The pressure point in the middle under the bone also will stop the energy, but that's a hit impact one. I'll work with you on that a little bit later in this seminar. What I'm going to have you do now is pair off. You're going to pair off, and on one side you get a fist like this and hold it tight. I want to show you another reason why these are important. Even the martial artists. You have people that are small policemen. There might be a man, this happens to be a large policeman. But you might have a small policeman, you might have women. All of a sudden they're grabbed. If I'm grabbed, and he means it, if no one told you about that pressure point, isn't it possible in a real encounter to grab his wrist to get him off, but be a 1/2 inch away from the pressure point? Hold me tight. I can't get him off because no one told me, hold tight, that that pressure point will release him that easy. You see the difference? That's why pressure points are very important. How large is the pressure point? The actual nerve that we're after is about the size on this man of the button on a ballpoint pen. But the area of activation is the size of a 25-cent piece. You must think of it that way. You don't have to be that accurate, but you have to be within a 25-cent coin. You have a 25-cent coin here. You have a 25-cent coin here. You have one here, one here, one here. We also have two in here and one between the muscle. So they're not too small to use in a real encounter. You just got to get right to that 25-cent piece and know that it's there. If you worked a technique where he grabbed you and you tried to get him off and you weren't at the 25-cent piece, you're not going to get him off. Hold me tight. All I need to do is let this finger go under the bone and pull the nerve into the bone, and I'm released. And I can just hold me tight and squeeze, and all I need to do is this. And he's off. And then one touch to the same point puts him in this position for the handcuffing or finger restraining that I'm going to show you later on, or to put him in, down, or control him any way you want him, with just touches to pressure points. Okay, everyone pair off. Thank you. Everybody like that opening? I told you about the horseshoe, anvil, horseshoe, hammer. And some of you had a weak fist. Just let me show you how to make a proper fist quick, and we'll get back to this. When you make a fist, you roll the fingers in, you square it off like that so that it looks almost square. That's not the important part. So everybody make a fist. Everybody make a fist. This is the important part. I'm not going to correct anybody because I see some improper fists already, and I see some that are proper. So I'm not worried about that. I want to make sure the camera and you know how to make a proper fist. When you make a fist, your thumb can only go as far as your first finger. I don't care if it rests on top. I don't care if it lays over it. I don't care if it goes to the finger like that. When I teach a martial arts seminar, martial artists say, well, our style doesn't make the fist that way. We do this, this, and this. I don't care if your thumb passes your first finger. You have a weak fist, and it can break right there. The thumb, your thumb on a fist, never passes that finger when you make a fist. This is body anatomy. We can ask doctors about this. You make your fist. Your thumb only lies on that first finger. I don't care where you put it, as long as it doesn't pass it. Now, if you make a fist for me, and go to the first finger and squeeze, you'll feel equal pressure. Now take your thumb and deliberately, what some of you did when you paired off, go to the second finger like that. That makes a rounded fist, and you feel right at your index finger, your middle finger, you feel the weakness right here. You feel it. You squeeze that fist when you're over to the second knuckle. You create a weakness in the fist. Exactly on that bone right there, and you'll feel it. I know being a policeman, you've probably been on the scene, or will be, when someone in a pub has hit someone with a fist and he broke his fist. It is because he squeezed the fist and he went over to that knuckle. He went over to that finger. He squeezed, he hit. And a lot of times they think it was because he had a loose fist. It's wrong. He was over-squeezing to lock his energy in his own fist and went to the second finger with his thumb. When you make a proper fist, you only go to here or here. I don't care where you lay it. If you have a style and you do martial arts, put it anywhere you want. Just don't round that fist to that knuckle. You stay at that finger, the pointing finger, and you'll have a good fist, and you will not injure the hand as easily. So now when you make your fist, and never stick your thumb inside. You're looking for a dislocation right here. Okay, now pair off and work on that technique.
Okay.
And use them together, so that these all fit together. A lot of people do pressure point instruction, but they don't understand every time you touch a pressure point that you activate somewhere else in the person's body. You're not just affecting that nerve. The message is relaying through either the brain or the spine automatically to somewhere else in the body, and you're going to create other weaknesses. So this is what you're here tonight for. I want to get you through these basic points so we can show you how they'll just couple up. The pressure point on the inside. You make your fist. You'll feel the hard after the wrist joint. Feel it solid right here. Bone. Come up along the radial nerve, and the first hold, you'll feel a hole right there. Right there where my finger is. Inside the radial bone, not outside, right inside, you'll feel a hole. Let me use you again. He just loves this. Get a tight fist. This pressure point needs rubbed. This is what you have to remember. The other one needs touched. This one needs rubbed. Touching this doesn't do any good. Get a tight fist. Hitting it doesn't really do any good. But when I go like this, it drives it crazy and the fist opens up. Did you see what happened? This man has a knife or any other kind of a weapon or has a hold of a victim, and you need a release, and they have a fist. Now, what I'm showing you is that pressure point is on the inside of the radial bone, not up on it. Do not rub up here. You just reach on the inside and rub. You have this much area to rub. The fist will open up. This is the most difficult way to do it. Here. And look at the fist open up. That is the energy to control the fist staying shut. That actually works easier. I'm going to get into that a little bit later. But these pressure points are going to work easier if he truly had a gun or a knife or somebody grabbing somebody. Because his hand is not only full, but he's squeezing to hold on to whatever he has. and he is stretching the nerve. This will make it so much easier to just touch it and rub. Hold tight. I just go like this. I'm out. And that's how I would get out if I was grabbed. But if you need to release a hand, this is one of the ones that I taught those doctors we told you about at the rehabilitation center, because they would get nurses grabbed. And somebody just needs to do this, and the hand will spring open. And you can get a victim loose without injury. Possible. So that's what that point needs rub. So what I want you to do, you can grab each other like this, or you can try it with a shut. Make your fist knuckles. Use the bottom knuckles. Go inside the radial bone and just rub. The energy comes down the small bone, across the fist, back the large bone. It is actually the rub this direction that hurts that nerve. That's what makes the fist open up, because I am sending the energy. Remember here, this only bends the wrist. The energy has now been to the wrist. It's going back home. As it's going back home, if I send the energy that direction, that's what makes the hand spring open. So I cannot use that pressure point and go sideways, this way, up. I do the rubbing because the up actually stretches the nerve, and then I do that, and that hurts even more. I give the nerve a little stretch, and I rub towards the fist. And I stay inside the radial bone. But if somebody has a hold of your throat or your clothes, it's right there. And you're just off. So pair off and work on just rubbing. One side can grab the other. Just feel it. How are you? Before we start. Points. You do it. Use restraint. There's no reason to do it full on. You'll get the feel, and you'll feel the nerves working. On that rub, it's a little more of an advanced technique. And I'll just tell you about it. You got to think about it. But if you have somebody that's difficult, I let that knuckle sneak in. I have the fist this way. If I have a thick wrist person, I let that knuckle out like that. I let this finger rub along the radial bone, and I let that knuckle actually go in that hole. Now it's going to pinch the nerve. And he jumps. The next spot you're going to go after is right where my finger is pointing. It's in the center of the arm on about 95% of the people. It's on the inside of the bone, and it's where this muscle ends. That pressure point requires a tap, like knocking on a door. This is a great one to use with a nightstick. A nightstick. But, has anybody had instruction on this point? Yes? Other than my seminars. Police instruction on these seminars. No? Okay, because there are people teaching to use this point to hit. If the man is armed or has a weapon, or a knife, or a gun, primarily a gun, and this is the radial nerve. I don't recommend this to be used with a gun, at all. This is the radial nerve. The radial nerve controls his trigger finger. When I tap the radial nerve, watch the trigger finger. If he had a gun, and I take the gun to the outside or whatever, and I tap the radial nerve, the trigger finger is going to squeeze off around. True story, several years ago, it happened in Los Angeles, at least I was told, but a policeman took the gun to the outside, captured the gun, took it to the outside, and hit with his police baton, and the gun went off and shot an innocent person. You stay away from the radial nerve if they have a gun. They have a gun. This is empty-handed for self-defense. If he has a knife, and you hit him on the radial nerve, the knife will fall every time towards you, the police officer. Once again, I was told this, but there were 2 or 3 policemen out in Los Angeles that caught a knife in the foot. Disarmed the man, hit him with a stick, the knife fell in the foot, They were out on medical, etc., until they could heal and come back. Nobody think, but they caught a knife in their own foot. If you touch the radial nerve, the knife will fall towards you. Gun will go off towards you. Gun will go off towards innocent people. Do you have a knife or a...
There's one in the back.
Yeah, a knife or a gun. We use the ulnar nerve. Remember I told you the hit point on the top? Hit point underneath? These both need hit. So you now have touching, rubbing, and hitting. Touching, rubbing, and hitting. Got that? If I hit this to disarm, that knife even will come at my foot. But if I use this to disarm, and I'm going to show you a method just to tap it. I use the large bone of my arm. When I tap on the small bone, the ulnar nerve controls him squeezing. It controls the squeeze for a golf club, baseball, anything. Ulnar nerve is not functioning. They cannot play golf. They cannot play baseball. They can't squeeze. Hold tight. When I lock, we take a gun out, knife out, and we use this. It puts it back towards him. It sends it back towards the person that had it. So if it does stick anybody by accident, it's the guy that had the knife. Understand? So what happens is, we take the knife, we peel it out, and we just use this method. So we use this when he's empty-handed, we use down here. I'm going to have you do a move in a minute that's just like a golf swing. You don't have to think anything except a golf swing like this. However, the secret in the move is you cannot bend your elbow. I'm just going to have you do this a few times so you get the feel. And then this is the move. He wanted to drop already. That hurts. Doesn't it hurt? Oh, it doesn't? Oh, good. It will. This, golf swing. You do not want to bend the elbow. Because if you bend the elbow, you will go up around on the other side of the bone, and that's not where the nerve is. The nerve is on this side of the bone. So you lock your elbow and do this. You have him in your lock and disarm at the same motion. If you have a nightstick, the nightstick, it takes just a little practice to let the nightstick tap under there. If you were outside your opponent, you cannot tap on this side. You must make the nightstick now come up on the other side of the bone. And you tap under there, and the same thing will happen. His arm will go into a lock automatically for you. So, I'm going to have you just do this, and we're just going to practice a tap on that underneath center of the arm. It's easy to do. Here's his arm, here's dead center. Just stay on the soft side. That's where the arm is the weakest. Okay, back to your arrow. Everybody just go like this, look. Right hand. Right hand. Now keep the elbow stiff. You cannot lock the elbow. That's it. Simple? Simple. Now all you do is let it hit up underneath and keep that locked, and a tap is all it's needed. Hair off, and you don't need to have a knife. One side can just grab the other's arm, and you can tap underneath. Try it. Who would not? You have a gun also. Oh, it's a real gun. Yeah. With you, just some of my experiences, and you have a real knife. Use it. Here, or you can. You got a knife. Okay. How would you hold that to do a number on me? Okay. Now, did everybody see the way? This is the way about 90% of the people grab a knife to hold it. And I'm only telling you this so you know that if you're faced with a life or death situation, so you know if somebody really means to kill you or not. Most people have the knife out. And I think you know from police statistics that most people that pull a knife, about 90% of them don't intend to kill. However, I'm not too sure today. But that's a lot of the statistics that I was told. They meant to cut you to scare you and maybe cut you up a little bit, but they don't really want to kill you because they're going to kill you, they're coming in. One way you can tell, and I used to teach this in the military, bayonet training, knife training, if someone knows how to use a knife, he's going to kill you, and he's very difficult to stop. The proper way to hold a knife is this way. See what I'm doing? Most people take it because it's made for your hand this way, and they hold it this way. That allows you blocking, that allows you coverage. If a person means to do business, I'm going to tell you, so if you see somebody with a knife at you, and he has it this way, that's a whole different way than this way. A knife, the way I was told to teach, and this is back in the 60s in the military, when we used to teach bayonet training, the sharp part was to be up. So that if you try to disarm me, I can cut your hands. If you try to touch me, I can cut your hands. If you try to kick at me, which way is the point aimed? And this is a little shitty knife. I'm talking about a real knife. But the same thing. If he tries to kick at me, now throw a kick, but I'm not going to shove it. This goes into the foot. In other words, you see the way the point is aimed? I don't have to worry about the shoe here. I have to worry about this, getting the shoe. So a person that knows how to use a knife will hold it this way. If he holds a knife this way, he knows what he's doing. You better watch messing with him trying to disarm him. It's just that simple. Because this is the way, and a person that knows how to use a knife will hold it close to himself. And he'll have a lead hand, and when he throws it, he'll throw it with a thrust. And he'll throw it with this kind of a thrust because it will peel in and down, and he'll cut up, and then he's going to kill you. I mean, it's that simple. In the military, we were actually taught that that was the way to kill. Cut in and down, and rip up on the way out, and the fight's over. It's all done. Done quick enough, he doesn't even get to yell. But this is the way to hold a knife, and most people do not know that. I'm talking, I've had knife seminars before, and I've given people knives and say, how do you hold it? And 99 out of 100 grab it because this is the way the handle is shaped. If I am doing this, he can cover, he can get me. If I see a man like this, it's a lot safer for me to take this knife and stop him or stop even the top of the blade without getting cut. And if he's out, I usually will hold it out. And he really doesn't know what he's doing either. But if he holds it this way and he holds it close into the body, you stay away from him. And out comes another weapon of some kind to get him to put that knife down. You don't go messing trying to disarm. Because if he's holding it this way, you touch the blade, he's going to do this, cut your hand. And you go to kick, he's going to shove that into your foot. And if he knifes you, he's going to do very serious damage. I mean, I'm just telling you so you know from the School of Hard Knocks, and one thing that I learned in the military, and we were showing you how to disarm a knife, but I'd only do that if the person had the knife and was doing this kind of thing and had the knife as a lead, then I'm not afraid of a knife for my disarms. Not afraid at all. But if he's like this and I can run, I'll just run. If he knows what he's doing, and he holds it like this and he holds it close, somebody trained him. And he's holding it this way. Because if you go anywhere near him, he's going to cut your hand, and he's going to finish you off. Yeah, you just crook. Another point that we use, in between the muscle, right in between the muscle, the radial nerve comes up and peels in through this muscle. I only show you this point because this is best to be used with a nightstick. It's a hit or a push point. This is one point, pressure point, that on an Arnold Schwarzenegger arm only is not a good point. Because the muscle gets so tight on both sides, the nerve, the point is in there, but it's between the muscle, and he doesn't feel the impact. Only on a bodybuilder or a real tough arm. Not even a Ken Moreno arm. You can do it on Ken. He's smiling there. But this point will stop the energy into the whole arm. This can bend the wrist, open the fist, drop the weapon. But let me explain something to you. A nerve runs through this man's arm like a shoestring. If he goes and pumps iron and builds this muscle up like the Arnold Schwarzenegger arm, and he gets this muscle so big and tight, this point that you were just hitting at, this becomes weaker. This tap point here is weaker yet. Because the nerve stretches because of the building of the arm. on skinny people to do pressure points. If I have thin, frail people, we actually stretch the nerve before we do it. The nerve is just like a shoestring. If I stretch it and then put pressure on it, he feels it more. I'm a skinny arm, a little skinny person. If I want to do a pressure point, I'll pull the nerve this direction and then go after that point. But if a guy's pumped iron and has a large, massive arm, in between the muscle at this mound, you strike like this, and it sends the hand tingling. I'm going to let you experience that with each other in just a minute. I want you to find that one. You can just, when I make a muscle, it's right in between the muscles, right here. Right in between the muscles. And you have the radial nerve. So I want everybody to just feel that one on each other. Pair off and feel that one. You don't have to hit it. You don't have to hit it. On a good solid arm, when he makes a muscle, way to cause the most pain, some of you are finding out, is to use a narrow portion of your fist. We use the thumb in this case. I use the muscle as a guideline, I feel it. We use a knuckle. We use this knuckle. We let a knuckle sneak to the point. Picture the eye as a pressure point, which is not, by the way. People confuse pressure points and what we call vital points. Vital points are the eyes, ears, nose, throat, groin. They're vital points. Vital to your seeing, breathing, standing, etc. Breathing. But they're vital points. And I constantly run into martial artists even that say, we teach pressure points in our system. We use the eyes, ears, nose, throat. They're not. And your body has a natural defense against those. There isn't anybody in the world that if you go for their eyes, that won't flinch or close their eyes. The whole world, no matter what country you're in. It's a natural defense that's built in. You didn't have to learn that. There isn't anybody in the world that if you go to hit them in the throat, doesn't do this. Like you might have experienced that in some police duty. You'll go to grab them by the throat, they'll close up. Throat, the eyes, even the groin. You go to kick the groin and they'll do this. They're everywhere in the world. You throw a kick and they'll go like this. They have a natural protection against that. But that's what makes the pressure points so good, because once you go, if they think you're going for the eye and they blink it off, then we have pressure points on the neck or the legs. If they go for the groin and they go like that, they tighten these nerves and expose the pressure points that you really want. Behind the elbow. I'm going to show you how we would use this point. Right behind the elbow. I don't know what you're taught, and I don't really care, but a lot of police that I've encountered have been taught to get this guy's arm behind his back to handcuff him. They grab like this and take this arm back, right? We have two pressure points that you need to know on the upper part of the arm. Only two you have to worry about. To get more advanced, you get my book on the subject, but you only need to know the two. You have 6 we fiddle with here, 2 you need to know here. One directly behind the elbow. Golgi tendon reflex nerve. It's a Golgi tendon area. If you feel in the elbow, there's a little hole. A little hole right there. We rub it. Every martial arts book, that's my pet peeve on my other instructional video for karate people, is martial artists are taught to break the elbow to do this and smash. The only thing I would break is the small bone of my arm. If he has a good strong, lock that in place. Lock that there. Don't let me move it. Don't let me handcuff you, get it behind you. If I take this point and hit it, I'll stay there. It only hurts. That's not the pain we're going to do in a minute. That's an impact. That's power, strength. All you have to do to release that joint is go like this. And you have total control. And it's all done with rubbing. And the more I rub, am I right? The more pain. this police officer's in. Hitting will not do the same thing. I don't care if you do it with a nightstick. You can look at pictures in my book or out front. I used to break 1,000 pounds of ice at my elbow. That receptor does not read that. This does not read impact. That's why I could hit him. In medical books, and when I study medical books, not martial arts books. In medical books, it tells you it releases the joint in 1/5 of a second. Half of a second in slow motion. Actually, what you're doing is tricking his mind into thinking that the elbow, this message, releases the elbow in 1/5 of a second. This is important to handcuff, to get somebody off a victim, to get somebody off of you. This is one of the key points to use. And I wouldn't always use it with my hand like this. I'm only doing that so you can find me. I would use my whole arm in a real situation. And I would use my whole arm and just go like this. And he's going to go down. And then, right dead center of the back of the arm. Here's where angle and direction is the most important word. Picture an arrow. An arrow shot through his arm, sticking out his muscle. An arrow. That's the angle and direction. I must follow that angle and direction to handcuff or get this man under control. I must follow that angle and direction. His arm won't always be that way. His arm could be this way. His arm could be this way. His arm could be that way. I must strike that arm as if I want to go through the center of the muscle. Does everyone understand that? When I tap here, I got to do it that way. Look what it does to him. If he's standing up, it releases the arm. That pressure point, just like this one released the wrist, that pressure point releases his shoulder. That will release the elbow, but primarily release the shoulder on touching it. That is where the radial nerve crosses the bone in his arm. If he makes a muscle, and it doesn't matter how much strength he has, it's right in that tricep hole. Right where the tricep hole is. But you must do it as if you're coming through the muscle. This is the key one for handcuffing. The most important one that you'll ever know. I have police in Newark, Delaware, Wilmington, Delaware, New York City, down in Broward County. They've all been studying my techniques. They use these to handcuff. Los Angeles, they use these to handcuff. The guy's resisting. He's giving you a hard time. All it takes is a tap to that area. A ridge hand, a nightstick, the butt of the gun if you had it out, and he hit him right there with it. But you hit. This is what you get. Freedom to handcuff. He can resist me, and don't let me move your arm. And try not to let the arm go. And there has been a case, several cases now that we know of, where 3 and 4 policemen could not get a man in a paddy wagon. And 1 or 2 of the people that I've had trained walk over and just go and throw him in. And you use the blunt part of your arm. There's no damage. He feels the pain, but this pain goes away. That's why I explained early on in the seminar, there's a difference between injury and hurting. It hurt, but it goes away. I didn't break his arm. And you know as policemen that if you break his arm or break a bone, there's going to be lawsuits or trouble or whatever. The media with bad press. So this releases the joint. This will release the elbow. Now, on And I give you the statistics. There's about maybe 15 or 20% of the people in the world, they're usually heavy construction arms that this point is no good on with your hands. That's when I use my full body and I do this. I do that, sorry, but he felt that more, but I use my body behind it. But you will get somebody that has a construction type arm, or he might be in construction, and his arm just is almost the same size all the way up. The nerve is there, it's just deeper. And in that case, I treat his arm as if it were the leg, because the leg, the nerve is deeper. So I treat that arm as if it was the leg, and I give it more power. And the minute I see the arm, I read how much power it needs. The average person only needs this. 80% of people need this. The minute you see a big, strong arm, and it's not police brutality. He went, because he felt that pain. But that's going to go away the minute he's sitting in the car on the way to police headquarters. That pain's going to be gone. And he can sit there and say, well, he hurt my arm. There's no damage. There's not even going to be a red mark. There won't be nothing. There won't be a mark. There won't be nothing. When you use pressure points, it's really weird, but the pressure points don't get black and blue. The muscle will get black and blue. If I hit him on the arm with my nightstick, he's going to get a big black and blue. If I hit him on the nerve with it, he's not going to get a black and blue. Rack him right on the pressure point, doesn't get black and blue. If you hit him right on that arm, that muscle, you'll get black and blue, black and blue, black and blue. This needs a tap, that needs a rub. This is a very important one. However, what I'm going to tell you next, when it comes to black people, and this is very important, black people, for some reason, have an extra layer of fat here, and there's fat, and the pressure point lies in the fat, and it protects the back of that arm. And only about 25 to 40% of black people will respond with a hit on that arm. Your white people, it's over 90% are going to respond with a hit. And it'll be 100% if you add more impact to it. I'm talking about the type of response to just bang and put him in the police wagon, where it doesn't look physical. In other words, if I take this guy and go boom, and the TV camera's there, it looks like I hit him. But if I go like this, and I get my result and release and handcuff him, it just looks like I was grabbing his arm to do it. It's just that I tap it with a knuckle right on a pressure point, right on that spot, because I know where to go. We had one little man over in Wilmington, Delaware, a small man with the police, and 3 or 4 policemen could not get this big man in the paddy wagon. And he was spreading like this, and he just tapped him on the arm. And they said, how'd you do that? Because the guy's arm, the other one released, and that one dropped, and he threw him right in the wagon. That's how good these points are. They save damage to both you and the person you arrest. They put them under control instantly. However, because black people, we had a seminar, and it was just by luck in London, England. My seminars have been all over the world. I've toured and taught in 17 countries. And I had a seminar in London, England, and it was just by luck, but there were 4 black people there. And I explained to them about this not working on blacks. And 1 out of the 4 responded to it, and the other 3 didn't even know I was hitting them. There's nothing you do. We look at pressure points as not being good at all for black people here. It's a difference in races. And that's where I think police get into trouble, and they should know more about that. Because I think this is a black man, and you go to do this to get his arm, or you even hit it, and he doesn't feel it. You think he's now resisting arrest. You understand? Then out comes the weapon or whatever. Where you have to know the different body anatomy. There are certain pressure points that work different on Orientals, on blacks, and whites. They're just different. Body anatomy is a little different. Same as women to children to men. There's some pressure points that are non-existent on women because they do not have the muscle structure of men. When I get into a major class on that, I cover those. There's some pressure points that women just don't have. A few might, but most don't. And we cover that. And as policemen, they should know the back of the arm. If it was a black man that wanted to handcuff him, you're good right up to this point. They're usually very sensitive here. Very sensitive there. And you don't have to go any higher than here to get the same result. What I want you to do is pair off. Find this one. Just look at your opponent's arm if you can see if he has a shirt. If you do tap it, be blunt, mild, like that. Try it. It will help you. Turn around. You're going to be a star. Oh, thanks. The techniques in the arm. First of all, this is your strength factor. You have a person that has his hands pulled in here. First of all, you don't need these techniques. You don't need to do that technique. He's doing this, pin his hands to his body. Keep him there. If he has his hand in his body, I keep it in his body. You have the weakness here to raise the elbow. In other words, if he pulls this in with it bent, you keep this against him. You go in underneath. If you do it with a smack, you have the ulnar nerve, right by the crazy bone. You all know where that is. And you just smack that general area, and you can rise up just like that and keep it. So you keep it. You let it. If his arm's pinned, you do it. You only do this rubbing one when he's about at this distance. Anywhere out in here. But keep in mind, these are important if you're trying to handcuff, or he has a hold of your throat, or he has a hold of a victim. And just a tap will make him lose the strength in his arm. And he won't know what happened to him. So this is their strength factor. In fact, I do this with little children's seminars. I have them pull their hands against their body. And I have a big adult try to remove their hands, and they can't. They'll move the kid around the room before they can pull his own hands away. The secret in our grappling techniques is to try to get this man's hand as far away from his body and that strength factor, and as close actually to my strength factor as I can. In a minute or two, I'm going to show you how to do some techniques to put some people down. And the closer we do that, the closer I get. If I'm here trying to put him down and he's resisting me, he can give me strength and resist. But the closer I get him to my breast, the more pain and power he'll feel, and the lower he'll go. So I want to take it right to my breast. This is my strength. I want to get him away from his strength. I want to get him to my strength. But in about 95% of situations, maybe even 99%, the person's either grabbing at you, has a hand out, a hand's coming out to hit you, or a hand's coming out to do something, or he's spread out trying to stop the motion of being put in the paddy wagon. So then that's when you can use those techniques. The minute he pulls this to his body, you just raise the elbow. Okay? Then we'll show you a couple other techniques. I want to get into some finger work, just quick. And the fingers, we never do. Somebody said earlier that they learn joint locks, or they teach them in some police schools, police academy. We never do a joint lock with what I teach. A joint lock means that this man has to be stronger than this man. I have to be stronger than him to really do a joint lock. Now I'm pretty strong because I'm compact and I do a lot of working out. But this is a pretty strong individual too. If I try to put him down with a joint lock, maybe I'll get it, maybe I won't. I get a joint lock, even this is a joint lock, resist man. If I put him down, oh, but he's resistant. And the whole time I do a joint lock, he can hit me with that hand. Take that hand and just tap my shoulder. Tap, 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 tap. And he's in pain, but that isn't real pain. And he can hit me. What we teach in medical terms is explained in my book. In medical terms, it's called crossed extensor reflex action. That means if I actually put nerve pain or pressure point pain in this hand into the nerve, And keep in mind, the only place you can enter pain into a nerve is at a pressure point. This nerve runs this whole arm. You cannot hit it anywhere you want. You can only enter pain into the nervous system properly at these pressure points that it will run the gamut. If I put pain into a pressure point in this hand, that hand cannot hit me. And that's why the hands and the fingers, and what I'm going to show you next, is very important for handcuffing. If I just take one pressure point inside here, and this man wants to hit me, you want to hit me. If I go like that, that hand will drop and go limp. That hand will go limp. The other hand. If I do a joint technique, stand up. If I do a joint lock, he can hit me. That's why I have him tapping me. Anytime I do a joint technique, we twist the joint, like taking the cap off a bottle, like this. He's already starting to go down, and I'm not touching the pressure point. You really do it with pressure point. This is only the twist, and he will drop. Now you throw in the pressure points that I taught you at the wrist. You grab, and he goes down. If I have the joint and I bend this over backwards, I have to be as strong as that individual. But with what I teach you, you only have to touch this wrist point. What does that do? That releases his wrist. I just put my thumb into it like that. He's already starting to go down. I haven't twisted this yet. And he's going to go down in pain. So I never do a joint lock. I twist a joint. Now, even the finger, this finger, if I try to break that joint, get a little bend, don't let me bend that finger over backwards. But that finger's difficult. That's a joint. And that finger's difficult. Spread your hand like that, everybody. Right in the middle of that Y. Right in the middle of that Y. Right there is a pressure point. Right there and there. When you spread right in the middle of this Y, about a 1/4 inch back from the joint is a pressure point that will release the joint. Watch this. If I take this finger and try to bend it over backwards, resist. I will now just touch that point in the middle of the Y. I have full control with just a touch for a handcuff. You understand how easy? In other words, in the middle of that Y, in the middle of that Y, if I touch and bend a finger, he's going down. And I'm showing you how easy, because this takes no power at all. There's one on each side of those knuckles in the hand. A 1/4 inch back from the knuckle. When you spread your own hand, you'll see a Y. It's in the middle of that Y on all of you. Now what I want you to do is just get somebody to point like this at you. And I want you to take your hand and get their finger and touch on this side, not at the knuckle. Touch just right there, and you'll see that they go sideways. We use these for control. Let's say this guy is his helper. Many times you're going to arrest somebody, but he has buddies there. And this guy has grabbed you. When I use the peel off, I take him this way so that he's in front of his buddies for the arrest. And then if you have help, he should be taking care of him, or you tell him, you freeze. And you have this guy in a total lock, and you have the situation under control. So you use these to steer the person in front of somebody else. You don't fool with 2 and 3 people at a time. You just move this guy this way and say, now, you sit down. But that's how you handle it. I said sit down, boom. Okay, let's find the ones in the Y. Pair off. These are very important here because I'm going to get into some more things quick. If I hold the hand, I grab a finger. I do not squeeze like that. He can make a fist. Now I'm getting nowhere. However, I have a thing for that too, I'll show you that. He can't get out no matter what happens, because all you have to do is reverse it, aim it that way, and you got him back in a hold again, and then you have that knuckle, and you got him back again. Sorry. But I just do that.
Trigger finger.
Yes, yes. It'll be okay. Remember, we're not hurting it. Now, when you get the finger, you leave it open like this. You leave it open. Now this just takes a little practice, but you grab your finger like that, and the secret is in this towards you. Not bending his finger over backwards. The secret is the pull to your strength factor. Got that? The secret is in this, coming to me, not in bending his finger over backwards. If you grab somebody by one finger, any one finger, he must go down. That's the direction to take him. Everybody understand that? I can grab any finger, he must go down. Any finger. I know, they go down. But when I grab two or more fingers, isn't it possible for you to grab a guy like this? Or have the fist, or the whole hand? Or he makes a fist, it don't matter. When you grab two or more fingers, resist me. You cannot put him down. In fact, to show you how nerves are, nerves come up to what we call sensitive, on guard. When I grab one finger, his body, without him even knowing it, reads that I can break that finger. And that's what makes that nerve sensitive, and the reason he goes down is to protect that joint from being broken. It's a safety system is what we're playing with these receptors. When I grab two or more fingers at one time, I cannot put him down because his body knows I do not have enough strength to break two or more fingers at one time. And that nerve, now don't go anywhere, you resist me, that same nerve I was pushing will not put him down, even though I'm pushing on that pressure point. But the minute I grab two or more fingers, I am automatically to take him and aim his hand that direction. And the minute I aim at that direction, that makes that nerve sensitive that I can put him down. What triggers that is the minute I reverse his hand on him, his body weight, my weight plus his body weight can break his fingers, those nerves come out and go on standby like that. The receptors go into activation. You understand that? You don't have to understand it. I have it in a book if you want to read about it. But what you do have to know of, if you get anybody by any one finger, the direction is down. If you get more than one finger, 2, 3, or all of them, you must aim him that way. And it doesn't matter how he has you. If he wants to make a fist or what, all you need to do is this. And the minute you aim it up, you got him. And the minute you aim him there, then you can put him down or control him with these knuckles, with these fingers, and handcuff him. So all you have to know is that you just got to reverse and aim the other direction. If it's more than one finger, the guy goes down. The way you aim the finger, palm, the way you aim the palm is the way he will go. If I aim his palm down, he goes down. If I aim his palm that way, he goes that way. If I aim his palm that way, he goes that way. If I aim it up, he climbs. If I want him all the way to the ground, I do it all the way down. The reason I'm telling you that is because if you have a man, here, you just lay down. Lay down. Face down. Well, of course, it doesn't matter. And you want to get this guy up. You need any one of these fingers. And you connect this, and you put here, and he will come up. He will go the direction the palm is aimed. And he can be totally drunk. He can be on the ground. And when he's down on the ground, this is where policemen have trouble getting people to move or get them up. You need any finger. You take the finger and you aim it up carefully. Lay down again. I picked him because he's a little skinny. He's got a lot of weight there. He would have come up too, but I've done enough on his fingers. All I need to do is take any finger. If he has a closed fist, I would either use my shoe or a knuckle and tap at the ring finger. When I tap at the ring finger, that will open up, and I have control to get him up and say, excuse me, but you're going with me, you broke the law. Do you understand? Yes. Let me read you your rights. But that's all you need to know, is to tap at the ring finger. Take one of his fingers and just aim his palm up. If he's in a car, you want him out of the car, he's down on the ground, these fingers, and the way you aim the palm, he can be down resisting arrest. We now have several hundred policemen that use that and have come up and thanked me and have used it in real situations, etc., etc. Because they get people that lay down on the ground and refuse. And all you need to do is wrap that knuckle, and they go, ah, or a couple other pressure points, maybe behind the arm, tap that one, the hand will open. Tap the one in between the muscle, the hand will open. Use one of these that I showed you to control the fist. Rub it, his hand will open. The minute it opens, take a finger. And all you need to do, give me any finger, either hand, and take his finger and just aim it to the sky. And naturally, don't bend over like this because you're vulnerable to fall. Just get down and take the finger like this and aim it to the ceiling. Just take it, reverse it, and aim it. Say, excuse me, come with me. He will come up on his own. He will come up on his own. And he can be dead drunk. He can be sound asleep down there. If you do that, believe me, that whole nervous system will bring him right up off the floor. It'll lift him up so fast. And the quicker you do it, the faster he'll climb up there. That's a very important one to know. One finger, he goes down. Two or more, he's got to go up before he goes down. No matter how you aim the palm, he'll go that way, he'll go that way, he'll go that way, or he'll go that way. The way you aim his palm. And when he's down on the ground resisting arrest, you take a finger and aim it up, because you want his palm up. Raise it and pull. It takes very little pressure, and he'll climb up. Other thing I like to show you, which is a weakness of man, is the little finger. The little finger. If somebody's got you by the throat, the little finger always will dangle. The little finger will dangle. It will never quite fit in. Even if you have a long neck, the little finger doesn't quite fit there. Squeeze. All they do is take the little finger and do this. Peel him right off. Little finger to here. Put him in a lock, take him down for a hold. The little finger will cause pain because of electricity in his body, of a positive and negative electricity in this man's body. When I take his little finger and put it behind the ring finger, I don't bend it over backwards. I only move it behind. I take his little finger, I move it behind, and he will drop down. That's because there is a positive electricity in the palm of his right hand, negative in his left hand. Positive electricity here, negative electricity here. And what you've caused in his body is sparks to fly, the same as if you went to your car and took your positive and negative terminals, touched them together. So when you take anyone's little finger, put it behind, you'll drop them like that. I'm using no power. When you put the little finger behind, you can then set up grabbing the whole hand and leave the little finger alone and use your control. It takes very little practice. It just takes knowing these points. Try the little finger, get the person to put his hand like this. Just put the little finger back here and push him and see if he doesn't go down. Don't use any other point. Let me explain one other thing. When you were doing the arm, for the rubbing, the hitting, you make these points weaker by grabbing the wrist points. The wrist points will make these points weaker. So when I grab the wrist, I grab, I torque, then I strike. Because this will make that weaker. Pair off now and bend the little finger behind. Sometimes the person you will be arresting, and that's why I watch on one finger grabs, because it'll be sweaty. You'll slip, you move, but that's why I really want to make sure you know how to handle the whole hand or several fingers at once, because the whole hand, or if he locks on your hand, sometimes you'll grab him and he'll lock, or you'll grab him and he'll start to bend his fist. The minute you feel the bend starting, you reverse his hand. You just turn it and aim it palm up, and he'll climb. If you use pressure points, you can run into some people that are double jointed. Some people can take abnormal amounts of pain, but that's not this pain. This pain is entered into the nervous system. The other is only a reaction pain to muscle or bumping the nerve, and it's just sending that mild pain. This pain, if it's done properly, I'm sure you're experiencing by now, starts to run the course of the nerve. It doesn't just stop. In fact, this is a controlled situation, and we're sending the pain like that. If you were tense, it would hurt you more. The pain would shoot all the way up to the body. I have some pressure points that I don't teach police because they can cause a heart attack under an intense situation. But the inside of the arm is what we call the heart meridian. And we stay away from some points in here for hitting an impact other than the disarm one I showed you, because you affect the heart. If the person's on a large amount of drugs or drugs and alcohol, and you hit the heart, you're liable to kill him immediately. Liable to cause a heart attack. I want to show you some with the legs. When it comes to the legs, most people have heard that you tread on the instep. Am I right? Just tread on the instep. Here, you come here. You come back out here. Just face the camera. Right here is where most people are trained to tread with a shoe. Come around this side so you can see. Right here. This bone that my fingers are on, probably the strongest bone in the human body. It says that in medical books. This bone is only maybe that long, it's thick, and it's designed and made for impact. It's the spring bone. People jump out of airplanes, jump off things, and the foot impacts. And they teach people to tread on the instep to get out of self-defense situations, and that's wrong. Now I'm going to hit you, and don't you cry on me, but you only feel that. And if I keep hitting naturally with a hammer or harder, he'd still feel it, but I could break the bone, and that's just an impact. Right at the round of the foot. Right at the round of the foot. And this is the pressure point that I know police are using now more than ever, because this will cause severe pain. Right where my finger is a pressure point. Right where my finger is a pressure point. There is where you tread. There's where if you have a shoe with leather. You have a shoe with leather and a heel, that tread can be done even if he has sneakers on. In fact, it's great with sneakers. If he has a leather shoe on, it's even better yet. You don't worry about his shoe. You don't worry because he has a shoe on. Remember, you're treading. I'm only going to do it with a knuckle. You go right here. And it'll bring him down. It'll bring him right down, right here. With a tread, that'll drop it. That would bring both these people down to the ground. It will make their hands spring out, their fingers open. If I really want to drive that nerve, I just twist. I would tread with a twist. I have a policeman I'm going to tell you about a little bit later, but he's in New York City, an undercover policeman. I've explained some things. He uses this all the time. No police brutality. You're just a clumsy policeman. I'm sorry, I must have tread on his foot. But you don't tread on it here. You tread on it here, and that'll happen for the handcuffing. You tread on it right there, and that'll happen. And naturally, you're standing, and you just take your heel right here, and you dig that in, right where my toe is. And sometimes when I teach at martial arts seminars, I'll be barefoot and I take just my toe, walk around the room, drop people, because it makes them fall down. If I really dug that heel in and tread on that point, he's going to go to the ground. And the more you can twist or dig, the faster he'll go down. If you touch that point, it will make the arm relax and be ready for handcuffing. It will actually set up the entire outside of the leg to be struck to drop the person. If you reach outside your own thigh, stand at attention, and where your finger lies, where your fingertip of your middle finger ends, outside your thigh is a muscle divide like this. There is a point right in between the muscle there. Reach in and feel your own. Feel in between the muscle, in between the muscle. We use that pressure point. For police, the 4 most important pressure points, I'm going to show you on the leg. There are others. I have others that will release the knee, release the ankle, but then they could break the knee or the ankle. You don't want that in a handcuffing situation. Touching this point will make the thigh point weaker to do that, and Charlie Horse cramp his leg, and handcuffing is now possible. That was only weaker in that thigh because I touched him down in that foot. If I experimented and I walked around the room and kneed you all outside the thigh, you would feel it. Couldn't even put you down with that alone. But if I can tread here first and catch you just outside the center of the thigh, the angle and direction being that way, feel that? It's just going to numb that whole leg and pop the arm out. So that now, what I want you to do to relieve that, there's a Charlie horse is it. Go like this and rub yourself. That's it, now rub. Now rub. That's how you take away that pain. What you do when you hit those points directly is you stop energy there. And to take away the numbness, all you have to do is take your open hand, smack the pressure point, and massage. And you will start the energy back up, and it goes away as if it never happened. But the one outside the foot, right at the round, it's right at the round, and the angle and direction is that way. That will set up that outer thigh to make it weaker. The next point that you use, if you have somebody against a car, or you have them spread eagle, is in behind the calf. Just turn around. In behind the calf. In fact, let me use you. You have shorts on. We can just show it.
Oh, good.
Just turn around. In behind the calf. Now turn for the camera. No, there you go, right there. Behind the calf. You've all done this sneak up and break the leg stuff when you're a kid. But the pressure point right here is in and down. Right here. And it will put the person down. I wouldn't do it with one knuckle. I would use my foot for the tread. You have somebody spread eagle or goes to move on you, your heel goes right here and pushes this direction. And there's a soft spot in here. You can feel your own, again, your own calf. And you use the tread. in and down, which I'm doing it with one finger. When you're standing, your foot will take him down immediately. Put him on one knee. And it takes no power. The other place that we teach you need 4 on the legs that are important. And I want you to feel it on your own, but inside your thigh. Reach inside your thigh. That's more important than a groin kicking technique. Inside the thigh, on either side, will have the person drop towards you. It'll have him spread his legs. And now what I'm going to tell you is about drugs. If people are on drugs, because I've taught a lot of police seminars, the question comes up, what if he's on this drug? What if he's on that drug? What if he's on this drug? The question constantly come up about PCP. These pressure points control major organs of the body. Whatever organ they control, if he's on a drug that affects that organ, it will drop it. Alcohol, as you all know, affects the head. They get a head rush. If they're on alcohol, taps almost anywhere on the head will dizzy them because you get an alcohol rush to the head. You get into marijuana, marijuana affects the lungs. This is the lung meridian. These points on the outside of the arms actually control the lungs. And they will be more sensitive on someone that's on marijuana. In fact, I had a man at a martial arts seminar that I didn't know, and I just hit him on that lung point to teach a technique, and he passed out on me. And one of my instructors came over and said, what does that tell you? And we brought him back, and I said, yeah. And they told me later he's a heavy marijuana user. That's why he went out. He shouldn't have gone out. I didn't do a technique to knock him out. I did a lung technique, and it put him out. Cocaine affects the heart. And PCP people ask me about because they've even had people that were shot and still continue to fight. They've been hit. They've been clubbed. And a PCP, they kept coming. And that's where I went to the man that's on the New York Police Department, who's been with us for training and pressure points for over 8 years now. And he tells me that on PCP, I have no personal experience, but he tells me it took him several times to try because he hit people on other pressure points. And he got no effect. He tapped them on the neck ones, he used the arm ones, and man, they were on PCP and they were crazy. He said when you kick them inside the thigh, this is the liver meridian, and the PCP controls the liver, makes the liver very weak. You kick them inside the thigh, not in the groin, or you kick them outside the thigh. They drop like a gunshot. It's the most important move for a policeman to know. And actually, turn the camera this way, but actually, he's got so good at it, he says, as he's doing an arrest, if he's, no, you stay there, if he says, now, I'm not going to kick you, I just want to show it, but if this policeman and this policeman were trying to subdue him, while he's going over there, he just, right inside the thigh, just does this kick, wham, inside the thigh, and the guy goes down, and they control him and throw him in the car. He does the kick while he's walking at the guy anymore. He's that confident that that will rock the PCP guys. So I just wanted you to know that. I want you to pair off and, well actually just for a second, find your own. If you can't find your own, then pressure points on the leg. Let me know. But I want you to pair off and do that foot one. Try the foot one. Go ahead.
It's on.
Okay, tight fist. Me fist right here. I'm going to try to separate your hands this way. Don't let me. Try to separate his hands, like I just did. Don't let her either. Okay, good. Watch what you're doing. Now, I'm going to take your hands and move them this way. Like this. Don't let me. No, you're not to let me. No, don't let me. See what I mean? I'm going to move them like that. Don't let me. Now, don't let her either. That's easy, isn't it? Isn't that easy? Yes, it's really easy. Now, as a policewoman, if you're going to handcuff or move somebody, you never want to move his arm in that direction. because you're pushing it towards his shoulder, chest, arm, and back muscle, all supporting it. Yes, but the weakness in man is there's no muscle here. There's no muscle in here. He can lift all the weights he wants. He has muscle that holds bone together, but he doesn't have supportive reactive muscle. And better yet, he doesn't have muscle back here. He has muscle only that holds the bones together. So what you got to do is take and move him like this, and you got your handcuff. Or you can move him and control him with these other points. Now let me show you something else. Give him a balanced stance. And tight fists like this. I'm going to try to push you over backwards. Or move you. Don't let me. Try to move him. He's a strong boy. Okay, stop. Now, I'm going to cross his hands. Now I'm going to move you. Push you. Don't let me. Just keep the hands crossed. I can move him. Where here, I can't move him at all. Understand that? Keep your hands here. Not at all. Cross him. I can break his balance. The balance is controlled in the inner ear. You have two halves of the brain. One half here covering this, one half here covering this. The minute his hands are moved across, he loses control and he loses his balance. Actually, it's just done momentarily. But that's a point I want you to try on each other, because you just demonstrated that he can't stop you from doing that. It's at that point that when you do this, that you have to do that and move him or keep. Yes. Or get control. Or turning. That's when you would turn the arm. That's just a weakness of man. Does everybody understand that?
Yes.
Makes sense? What I want you to do, now this is not a contest. I just want you to test the theory. You get up with his hands like that. Try to separate them. But then tell him you're going to go that way. And just go like that. Then tell him you're going to push him. Try to push him. Cross his hands and you'll see that pushing him is easier. Try it. Because that's good for you. Yes. What I want to show you is, I just want to show you that it's simple, because that will aid you, and that will fit in with all the other techniques that we've shown you tonight. If I cross his hands, that makes the elbow up easier. That's going to make the hitting the back of the arm easier. That's going to make rubbing easier. In other words, I'm just showing you that you can do that to almost anyone. You've got to remember that you're here knowing what the other guy's going to do to you. So you're trying to resist. The man in the street, you can actually, it's so simple. I have policemen that almost just walk up and cross their hands and put them in the police wagon. Almost whether it warrants it or not, as you got the guy, you cross his hands. Come here, cross his hands. Now you know you have his balance factor. He doesn't know that. He doesn't know that. So it just makes the arrest easier. One more thing. If anybody grabs your arm, now this actually needs a lot of practice, but if anybody grabs your arm with one or both hands, the easiest way out of it is to bend your elbow. Everybody go like this. Now aim the tip of your elbow towards your opponent. Okay? You go elbow, tip. If they grab your arm, one or both arms, which can happen. People have even had their arm guns grabbed so they couldn't get their gun or their mace or whatever. Somebody pins their arm, and your arm's trapped. If he grabs my arm, and I don't care if it's with one or both hands, but if he grabs it, I bend my elbow I'm out of the situation. Now watch what I do. Don't watch what I do down here. Watch my elbow. Hold me tight. I bend my elbow. I get to my strength factor. My elbow is bent. I aim the tip of the elbow towards the center of his chest, and I have him. Back to my control factor. Let's say he grabs me with both arms, and nobody's really going to do this. Hold me tight, I'm telling him this. Nobody stands there in the street and says, hold me tight. Hold tight. I bend my elbow. Look. You say it. Hold tight. This is the response to any grab on your arm. Any grab on your arm. I don't care where they grab your arm, you bend your elbow. This is, children can do this. Hold tight. In fact, I'll even let them hold my elbow. They cannot stop you from bending your elbow. Hold tight. He cannot stop me from bending my elbow and coming out to get a hold on him. Once you do this and bend the elbow, his hands start doing this, and it becomes impossible for him to hang on. I go out and I do lectures on this, and I go into martial arts schools, and they have 20 and 25 things to do to get out of a grab. That's too many to remember. The only thing you have to know that if he grabs your arm, to bend your elbow, and you're out of it. You don't even need to look. And he's a big, strong individual. Somebody's grabbed your arm. I don't care if it's one or both hands. What do? Who's out? Who has who? Who can do this? And we got him handcuffed. I'm going to let you practice that a minute. This is the close of the seminar. I'm going to let you practice it. And it's the close for the video. Everybody have a good time? Yeah. Enjoy it? Sure. Sir. Thank you. Thank you. That's at my corner. My instructor said, turn that way and down block. He's going to kick. And don't kick hard or you'll break my leg. Now step and punch him in the belly. And I said to my instructor, what happens to this guy's hands? Did you ever ask that question? I'm going to punch him in the belly. We're in a fight. I want to tell you what my instructor told me, because he was starting to outthink. He said, I was a white belt. He says, you're a white belt. When you get better trained in karate, you'll learn to hit so hard, his hands won't matter. Wow. Here's the new one. I again asked, how do I know he's there when I do the kata? My instructor again said, you're a white belt, and you're rather young, because it was about 40 years ago. I've been doing the martial arts for almost 40 years. He says, when you get older, you'll get more aware, and you'll know he's back there. I said, wow. I'll watch Grasshopper on Kung Fu. He always knows they're back there. I'm missing out on something. But I'm to turn around and I'm to block your kick. Actually, you're messing up my kata, please. You have to kick with that leg. Yeah, this is the way, this is what you're taught. Am I right or wrong? Okay, kick, block, punch. Now you kick. I don't know he's back there. Block, punch. Now I go this way. Block, punch. Gichin Funakoshi has a book called Karate Do Kohan in 1955, well after the war, and he shows the pictures of this. And when you see that, what do you automatically think of or say? Down block. Gichin Funakoshi in 1955, in that book, they say there's a book from 1936 and 1917. They say that his book in 1955 is a copy of his 1917 book. First of all, the 1917 book he wrote in about 1911. In 1911, he would not have thought, when he wrote that book in Japanese, that there would be the communication between Japan and America like there is today, right or wrong. I mean, today, if I want to get you a copy of the book, I could fax it to you. Back then, we weren't even talking to that country, and we were still playing cowboys and Indians over here in 1911. 1911, we got that book. We got the book from 1917 and 1936. And if you look at the pictures, you don't need to read Japanese, but you'll see in the pictures that every picture of kata, and they're breaking it down, there's another man in the picture. But in 1955, which is after the war, they reissued the book with the katas in picture by picture, but they left the other man out. Because you could put two and two together. And in 1917, he makes a bold statement in there that all the moves in kata were created to kill. They are made to drop the opponent. And he is the founder of this eight kind of kata. If you don't know that, Gichin Funakoshi is the one that made it up. And he says he made it up for basic grappling so that students, when they learn higher katas, would understand it faster. So if I just started you out with an empty or a basai and told you that that was grappling, you wouldn't understand it. But he created this kata so you could understand it. It's just we didn't learn it that way. We learned block, punch, punch. Where in reality, he shows the move, and the kata opens up with this hand motion, and then this motion, and then this motion. And he shows a punch coming at him, and he shows attacking the hit point on the arm to vibrate the nerve. And he shows this trapping and going to here, and he shows this going to there. Doesn't that look like a down block without the man in the picture? In other words, 1955, they just say down block, and that's all the further your mind will go. But in 1917, he's the man that made up that kata. He shows trapping. That's picture one. Picture two, which could be a head pointing. Picture three. And that's why you're here. And that's why you're here. And then, he said moves can kill. There's no chance of killing him if I punch him in the solar plex. But if I straight punch now with a step, there's a real big chance of killing him because of what you've seen of the setting up the nerve, and if I even, and he don't even have to stretch it, if I even touch here, and just basically touch there, he's going down. If I punch him there, he's going down for real. And then the kata he shows stepping the other way. And everybody goes like this to develop power. He says you never turn around in a kata unless someone is on you from behind or to do further damage to the man in front of you. Everybody understand that? So I don't turn around to block his kick. I don't know he's going to kick. He shows a picture of a man reaching around like this for a bear hug. Coming for a bear hug. No, just around the arms. And he shows this move as stopping the bear hug grab. He shows this power. That's why in the qoute you go like this before you turn around. That's why that. And he shows picture number 1, bear hug. Picture number 2, he shows grabbing a finger on the pressure point right here that'll put the guy right to that position. And doesn't that look like a down block? Doesn't it? And then the punch would be. That's what he shows. Do you do that, kata? Do that kata? Does that make sense? So people that are working on the kata, let me tell you something. I've seen karate in my 40 years go from 100% adults to 70% children. You know that karate is over 70% children today? That's because we were giving children's explanations for these moves. We were not giving adult explanations to adults. And a lot of people would say, well, the katas are crap. That's why they stopped doing katas. That's why they've started creating kickboxing and every other alternative. Because they didn't really know why they were doing the moves. And because they didn't know, they just made up other things. And they went with lifting weight, strength, hit harder, let's kickbox, let's do this. Do that kata. The whole, up to the punch. Block, punch, block, punch, block, punch, punch, punch. Watch his hands. Do your move. Yes. Did you see the hands come like this, though? And then go like that. Okay, go back this way. You have the third punch. Okay, stop. Yeah, you got it. You got it. Third punch, stop. Bring the hands like this. What are you doing there? What are you doing on the spin? Do your spin. What are you doing there?
The way I can see it or
The way you were taught.
the way I was turning to a down block.
To a down block. You mean we're out in the street. Now watch this. We're out in the street. You stand right here. How long have you been doing this kata?
Probably close to 10 years.
10 years. And for 10 years you thought your next opponent was there.
Correct.
If you were out in a street fight and you just dropped the guy with your best move and your next opponent was there, wouldn't you go like this? Right? I mean, it's you and your buddy. I just dorked, boom, I'm so powerful with the karate, bang, he went down. Would I really go, block your kick? Would you even think about kicking if I was coming like this? No, you went and dorked me. Right? That's how humorous this can be, but here's why they didn't show you the answer. Do you know what the answer to that move is? The answer to that move is great. Your opponent's here. He's not over there. He's here. When you take the head and divide it in 4, you have to pay attention to that because they're quadrangles. If you try to pull somebody's hair, resist me. You can't. If I try to pull somebody's hair, you can't. So when you have katas that tell me that you're pulling somebody down and you're hitting them on your knee, that's also wrong. You can't do it. There's no little person here can grab a big person by the head and bring that head to the knee for this kind of a kata. How many people do a kata that does that? How many people have a kata that goes like this, and turns the other direction? If I grab to pull, you can resist. If I grab to pull, you can resist. But if I grab with this hand in the opposite back quadrangle, you cannot resist. I could break your neck. You heard it snap? That was just some energy stop. It did better now. You walk like this. Gichin Funakoshi shows a move of a guy grabbing. Two hands if you want, don't matter. And it could be one hand or two hands. Remember the pressure points that I showed you to hit here or here? Primarily back here, that bend the knees. I can't grab the opposite back quadrangle. Understand? I can't reach him. Gichin Funakoshi shows the strike to here so that I can reach him. Doesn't this look like the move? And the turn, he says if you do the turn full, all the way, you will injure the neck on the whiplash. That's why it's a low punch. I really want to grab your head and spin to there and punch you if you try to get up. Or even punch you while you're in the process is what he recommends. I don't want to wait till I'm done spin. I want to punch you while you're in the process of getting spun for dizziness. Does that make sense? So, they didn't teach that move for 10 years. And I'm saying this because I did this cut at 25 or 30 years before I found the answer. So I'm trying to help you people. In fact, that's what makes me mad, because I'm actually trying to help you and the martial arts, and then some people want to get mad at me and say blah, 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 blah. And I'm out to help them. You know how many people all over the country? And we take here. You went too easy. I know, that's what I wanted to. He said, I have a lot of hair, I wanted that hair. Once you get that hair, and you go that way, they're going. But it can't be here. No, don't resist me. It can't be here. It got to be over there. Opposite quadrant. You do a cut that goes like this. Do that. Just a move, not the whole cut. What are you doing there? Behind you. What are you doing here?
So I could grab behind the head.
But would you ever use that? And you think you could grab a head and pull it after what you see? How many people like to know what that move is for? Not you? You have positive and negative electricity in your body. Does everyone understand that? Positive and negative electricity. If I took your positive and negative terminals out in your car and went like that, what would happen? Sparks would fly. If I held them together, the battery could blow up. That hand is positive. That hand is negative. Your quadrangles, stand up. Your quadrangles, this is positive, this is negative, right on this quarter. This is negative, this is positive, this is positive, this is negative. I'm hitting in a fist fight, negative to negative, positive to positive. That's why we don't find it in boxing or fist fighting. If you want to hurt somebody, you add positive to negative. If anybody wants to feel this, I will just make sparks fly with adding positive to negative. I will not hit you hard. Stand up and I'll just go around the room and let you feel it lightly. I want you to watch this though. Watch. Keep your teeth together. You've got to keep your teeth together so I don't break a tooth. Keep it together. I feel electricity climb up. Just keep your teeth together. Understand that? I have a pressure point here that'll bring the head down. All right? In other words, let me show you that move in the qoute. You're feeling that. You're feeling just one side of it. Keep your teeth together. Any doubt that'll make you pass out? If we do both sides, you will pass out. You're feeling one side. But if you really, are you okay? If you really did both sides, and then did that knee, those points connect like everything you've seen. But let me tell you something else. Did I do you yet? What you were doing, well, I won't do them all, I'll just talk you through it. Let's say he grabbed me. Let's say I did this to him. Doesn't that look like the move? Then I did this to him, which would bring him down. What is the next move? No, turn the other way and do this. In other words, you're not turning the other way to knife hand block. Or I did one side of the head. If you try that when you leave here, you go back to your dojo or whatever, you have a buddy you try that with. I want to be honest, this move you only can try it once. You felt the electricity climb? If I did it to you, I can't go right back and do it again. In other words, if I did you on this side, I can't go back and do it again, and I certainly don't want to do the other side. Got that? And you never want to do both sides at the same time, now that you know that connection. It doesn't mean you will injure him, but there is a chance. And I don't take a 1% chance of injuring the seminar. I'd rather it not work and come back later than really injure you with that one.
What's the copy change?
Just make sure your teeth are shut, because I've had people that have broke their dentures with their teeth, with their false teeth, and I just make sure that, and I also let you know that you don't feel that at all. The average guy can take a shot from an average guy in the jaw. That's why they don't knock each other out. Unless you have what they call a glass jaw, I can hit you in the jaw. I just let you know, keep your teeth together, that ain't gonna hurt you. You don't feel that, it don't compare to that one. And that's letting you know what's happening in the cockpit. When you do the cockpit. Anytime you do the cockpit move, it takes in consideration pressure points, angle and direction. I got one here, come up there. This is a big guy, eh? This guy's 260 pounds, okay? You people learned the arm points today, right? Yes?
Yes.
If I just touch this arm point, what is this? Positive. Is this positive? Yes? What is this?
Negative.
What is this?
Negative.
It's negative. What is that? How many people do an augmented block? How many people do that? You have a copy you go like this. Everybody knows how you know.
Sure.
And they tell you augmented block. I tell you on my videotape that that doesn't augment anything. I tell you on my videotape they call that an augmented block. And I make a little joke. I say, run out and look that up in your Funk and Wagner. That's a dictionary. Everybody thinks that this isn't dirt. It's a dictionary. Funk and Wagner. Augmented block. Augment means to help. It ain't helping anything out here. But if I touch this point with negative on the positive part of the arm, and I touch that point with negative on the positive side of the face, doesn't that look like an augmented block? Yes?
Yes.
And the two short him out. This is a 260-pound guy. I did this to him last week, and he said it was okay to do it this week, because this makes it as clear as not that these are not blocks. You've got to keep your jaw shut. I'm going to lock with this. Augmented block. Oh! Come back. Come right here. See the size of those pupils? You sit there, man. That's one of Dan's students, right, Dan? Give him a round of applause.